Okay, so I made a post a few days ago, and the post did really well. Had tens of thousands of likes and comments, and it was just this. I said, how I lose weight. So this is something I go back to quite often. I utilize some intermittent fasting. That's what I'm doing right now. I eat meat and eggs. Something I've noticed that when I'm not hungry for meat and eggs, it means I'm experiencing what I would consider to be fake hunger. I'm not actually really hungry. Somebody in the comments asked, hey, what's the science behind that? You can look it up. It's called protein leveraging. And a lot of people talked about it. Dr. Ted Naiman is one of the leading guys on that research. So basically, the human body is in search of protein, and you're not going to find it in a bag of Doritos. And you're certainly not going to find it at the bottom of a bag of Doritos or the bottom of a bucket in Ben & Jerry's. Those things are what we call hyper palatable, aka they taste really fucking good. It's very hard to stop shoveling that shit into your fat face. Even though you know it's not in your best interest to continue doing that, and despite the fact that you recognize that has zero to do with your goals, it's actually setting you backwards. You already know this, but you literally kind of lose control in that moment because all you can think about is the next bite, all the way to the point where, if you ever notice this when you're eating cookies, sometimes you'll catch yourself where you have 2 cookies in your hand, or one cookie's already stuffed into your mouth and the next cookie is sitting here waiting for you. So we can get really lost in a lot of that. So be careful with your food choices and be careful of fake hunger. When fake hunger hits, try to cover it by either going and doing an activity like walking, or try to eat more of what's on your plan. A little bit more steak, a little bit more eggs, a little bit more yogurt, cottage cheese, whatever's on your plan currently. Weigh yourself every day. Now, you can control that whatever way you want. You don't have to weigh yourself every day. But the most accurate measure that you're in a caloric deficit to date, here in 2021, is a scale where you weigh yourself. I know everybody wants to get into measuring their food and figuring all that out and counting, but we can all agree that that's not a super accurate measure. We can also agree that even though it's an inaccurate measurement, you could still lose weight with it because it's still a calculation and it's still estimating most likely that you're in a caloric deficit. The only way to actually truly see that is when you weigh yourself and you weigh less. Yes, there can be small manipulation and sometimes large manipulation of water weight and things of that nature. I know people get all crazy about hormones and different things like that, but again, at least for now, the most accurate measure that we have that you're actually in a caloric deficit is continued weight loss from a scale that you weigh yourself on. However many times a week you can handle that. I prefer daily weigh-in. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to talk about sustainability. People are always telling me that my diet isn't sustainable. Carnivore diet's not sustainable. Keto diet's not sustainable. War on carbs not sustainable. I've been doing this stuff since 1993, on and off. So I don't really know what your measure of sustainability is, but I've been doing this stuff for nearly 30 years, 25 plus years, right? Another thing to keep in mind is that weight loss by nature is never sustainable. It's not sustainable. Weight loss in perpetuity, weight loss that goes on forever, you're going to be down to nothing and you're just going to die, right? So when you think about sustainability, you have to just think of this. This is the only way to measure sustainability in a diet. Did it help you lose weight? And did it help you to keep weight off? People will say, getting in shape for a bodybuilding show isn't sustainable. Okay, I understand. The conditioning that you have on stage when you're 6% body fat, 7% body fat, may not be sustainable for that individual. However, could it still have a net positive on your overall body weight and conditioning for years down the road? That's what it did for me, and I think it can do the same for you. So could doing a carnivore diet once a year for a month be massively rewarding in a lot of ways? Fuck yes, it can be. Can it be beneficial to do 3 weeks of keto just as a clear out, just as a cleanup? Hey, I'm going a little hard on the flexible dieting and it's showing up, right? Why not try a low carb diet? In my opinion, your diet should change. It should move around. That's what's been the most fun for me. Some people like to have the diet be flexible all the time. Other people like to go harder for shorter periods of time. For me personally, I go pretty good on a diet. Scale of 1 to 10, 7 or 8, almost year round. You usually take a week off somewhere. It's not a week off of gluttonous eating. It's just a week of just kind of laid back eating, a little less rules. I still have some rules. All right, back to the matter at hand. Get in 3 10-minute walks a day. Self-explanatory. Due to the information spread by me and Stan Efferding, talking about walking all the time, hundreds of thousands of people have been impacted in a positive way just from walking. Getting a couple 10-minute walks every day. If in your area it's winter time, it's raining, it's snowing, climate change, call it what you will. If you need to stay inside, hop on a treadmill, hop on a bike, hop on something for 20, 30 minutes a couple times a week. It's gonna be good for your heart, good for your brain. How many of you listen to podcasts? How about this? Make a rule for yourself. If you're gonna listen to podcasts, you either have to be driving or you have to be moving. That's it. You're either driving or you're moving. So your car is a classroom, and when you get on the treadmill, it's a classroom too. And it could be an entertaining podcast, doesn't have to be informative, whatever way you want it. But man, what a great addition to your week, having 210 minutes a week of educational / entertainment coming to you in a variety of ways from whatever different podcasts you listen to, 30 minutes a day in whatever type of cardio that you want to do or walking that you want to do. Just one more note on walking. Walking is an activity for most people that is so easy that if you don't overdo it, which you can overdo walking too, believe it or not, if you're walking a handful of times a week or a couple times a day, 10 minutes a pop, it's not going to be too taxing. And because it's not too taxing, it's not going to make you hungry. But what I'm doing here today, the running that I'm doing, that'll make you hungry. In fact, that's all that it's done for me the first month of running. It just made me hungrier. So I actually kind of gained some weight, but I was okay with it because I'm more concerned with the output on the track and in the running than I am with body comp at the moment. Now I'm shifting gears, regulating my diet. No carbs till Christmas for now. And I'll keep modifying that as I get Shredderton in 2022. All right. What else we got? Oh, lift weights. Look at that. Lift weights about 4 times a week. Figure out a way to do a little bit of this. Some pressing, some pulling, get into some squats, get into some deadlifts. Things like that are going to be really beneficial for you. And don't think that you have to have a capacity to do it the way that you see other people do it. Build your own capacity your own way. If you need to use machines or whatever, do whatever you got to do. But lift some weights 4 times a week. Could be 20-minute workouts. In my opinion, that's plenty. Find a bunch of shit that you like. Things that you don't like, don't do them. Maybe work on them here and there, but don't muscle them too much. Do the shit that you enjoy. This one everybody made fun of because I said poop out, and then everyone thought I was talking about actually pooping. But when you plop down at the end of the day, when you're pooped, so to speak, I don't know where that term came from, But when you're pooped out at the end of the day, you got nothing left, and you go to sit down and you go, right as that sigh comes out, that's your cue to stand back up and get to doing something. That is right when you let your hands down and you're not paying attention. And what do they tell you in a boxing match? They say protect yourself at all times. Don't let your guard down. Don't be weak. Be strong in that moment, because you have to teach yourself new habits. You are fatter currently than you want to be. The only way that you're going to be less fat is if you encourage yourself to do things that you normally weren't previously doing. Setting yourself in motion, going on a walk, or reading, whatever you can do to kind of push off that total relaxation feeling, even if it's just for a handful of minutes, will encourage more movement, and it will encourage you to stay on your diet. Because I'm like, you would be like, shit, man, I'm doing all this movement and I'm not really making progress. I know I need to clean my diet up a bit. So I encourage you very strongly to work towards being a new human being in a way. If you want to weigh 180, you got to have behaviors of a 180-pound person. You got to lose the behaviors of a 280-pound person. Not easy to do. I know from experience, losing over 100 pounds over the years. All right, last thing is coffee, bone broth, tea. All those things are good distractions away from consuming extra calories. Yes, if you want to throw a little something in your coffee, go for it. But you got to be careful. You got to be honest with yourself. Also, watch out for like dressings and sauces and all those things. These are all things that can add calories to your diet. Another place where people get tripped up, they go from one diet to another diet. And when they switch diets, they carry over the same bad habits from the diet they were previously doing, or even if they weren't dieting. You can turn any food into a hyper palatable food. So I can take some ground beef. I could throw like a bunch of barbecue sauce on it. It could be like 80-20 beef. Well, now my fat calories are high. Now I threw barbecue sauce on it and my carb calories are high. My overall calories are not only are they high, but the food is a lot easier to eat. So instead of eating 1 pound of it, I eat 2 pounds of it. Double the amount, and then plus the extra calories, okay? So those are all things you want to be careful of. You want to try to keep the ingredients of your foods really modest. Once the ingredients start to be 2, 3, 4, 5 different things, it's real easy to overconsume. How good is some pasta? How good is just some like linguine, or some just flat out just pasta by itself? It's really good, right? It even has good texture. How about we throw a little salt on there? How about we throw a little marinara on there? How about we have some meatballs with it? Right? Once we start to do stuff like that, we turn our healthy food into a very similar thing to eating like a bowl of ice cream or a bowl of cereal or eating Doritos. We turn it into a hyper palatable food, and we end up in the exact same spot, but we're coming at it in a different way, and we are trying to do something that we think is good for ourselves, but it's still netting a shitty result because you're still over consuming. So don't forget, the overarching thing that's in every diet is the fact that you have to be very cautious, and you have to learn to make it through every single day without overeating. A lot of people came onto my messages on that particular post, and I don't know if people think that I haven't been around long enough or that I don't know this information, but a lot of people came on there and said, don't forget about a caloric deficit. It's like, motherfuckers, I know this. That's why I said weigh yourself every day. If you weigh yourself a couple of times a week and you see it's trending downward, that means you're in a caloric deficit. If the scale is trending upward, that means you're eating too much. You're consuming too much energy, and your body is starting to store some of that energy as body fat. If you're the same, that tells you that you're even. There is no device, there is no product, there's nothing that gives you a more accurate measure than weighing yourself on some shitty scale that you bought at Walmart. I know, it sounds ridiculous, but that's the world that we're in right now. And if you're really hungry, if you're someone that's continuously hungry, I want to encourage you to investigate 3 things. One is your sleep. Make sure that you're sleeping, because if you're not sleeping, you're going to end up with a lot of cravings. And when I talk about sleep and people try to talk about sleep hygiene, they talk about all these pills and all this bullshit that you can do and take to help you sleep better. Those things might be a little bit effective, but get a sleep study done. You can get an at-home sleep study done. I guarantee you there's thousands of you right now that have sleep apnea. That needs to be addressed. You can't fix that with CBD oil. You can't fix that with melatonin. There's not a product on the market, as far as I know, that can do anything for that. So the only quote unquote fix for sleep apnea at the moment, I guess there's 2 of them. So you can wear a mouthpiece, which I wear, and my tongue, I don't swallow my own tongue, or you can look into getting a CPAP machine. It's shitty, it sucks, but those are the options, and that's going to help you a lot. So sleep is key. When we're talking about diet, and we're talking about perpetually being hungry and having tons of cravings. The next thing, when it comes to trying to keep hunger at bay, go ahead and lean into protein. Eat large amounts of protein. The leaner sources of protein are better, because in my opinion, protein is not an efficient calorie for us. It is kind of a building block, and it's sort of a neutral macronutrient, if you will. I know there could be some disagreements about it, but just trust me on this one. Protein is a great neutralizer of cravings and of hunger. And if you could throw in a couple of egg whites into your day, and you could throw in some chicken breast or some lean fish. I eat Wild Planet salmon sometimes 2 or 3 times in a day. It's just quick, easy protein, and there's hardly any fat in there. And whatever fat in there is fat from fish, so supposed to be good for you. I don't know. So protein leveraging, lean into protein. Super hungry, and you want to overeat on your protein calories. So the 3 things for sleep, we're on number 3, and one of the most interesting is intermittent fasting. The idea here is if you can't beat them, join them. You're hungry all the time anyway. And I want you to think about this. When I was 330 pounds, I was still hungry often. So I want you to ask yourself right now, how hungry are you each day? How hungry do you get? Do you get hungry often? Do you get hungry multiple times a day? I'm going to tell you an interesting thing. You get hungry with or without food. And hunger is not an emergency to go sprinting to the refrigerator. Hunger used to be a little pang that would come in to tell you, like, hey, you should probably go hunt pretty soon. How long does it take to hunt something down, kill it, skin it, cook it? It's got to take fucking forever, right? It's not a trip to your refrigerator. It's not you calling and making an order for pizza, or you ordering DoorDash or whatever it might be, right? You used to have to expend a lot of energy in order to get energy, and now it's a simple little walk to the refrigerator. So in my opinion, one of the best things people can do for hunger is to do some fasting, especially intermittent fasting. How many hours do I do? Everyone always goes nuts about the hours. And I think they go nuts about the hours because that's where some of the research is. It's on what they call 16:8. Who gives a fuck? Guys, I want to tell you this. Don't worry. Don't be so concerned or so worried about the research and the science, because I would say that most of the time the research and the science is bullshit. Most of the time the research and science is not on people like us. It's not on people that really like to get after it. It's not on people that are super active. It's not on people that want to be savages. So a lot of times the studies are done on just kind of average schmoes, and maybe it tells us something. But anyway, there was many people that have been utilizing fasting for decades, if not centuries. And then there was some research showing that it works well. But obviously the act of eating less, of course that would be a net positive, especially for anyone that's grown up here in the United States consuming way too much. So investigate some intermittent fasting. I think you'll be shocked and surprised on what it can really truly do for you. It's been a monumental shift for me. My boy Nsima, who's on my podcast with me, Mark Bell's Power Project, You guys seen the freaky nature of that motherfucker. That guy utilizes a lot of fasting. So it makes sense to buddy up with it. Nsima was somebody that experienced extreme hunger. I'm someone that experiences hunger that I feel is like on a different level than maybe somebody else's hunger, but it's probably not. It's probably normal, but it just sometimes feel like, holy shit, man, I am so hungry. So get used to some intermittent fasting. How long do you fast for? Try 10 hours. Try 10 hours a day for a couple of weeks, then 12 hours a day. Your sleep counts, so hopefully you're sleeping 7-8 hours, at least 6 hours, okay? And just try to extend that a little bit through the morning time, or cut your dinner off or your last meal off a little early. Maybe your last meal is at 5 p.m. and then you don't eat again until like 10 or 11 a.m. It's a pretty long fast, and that's you getting more acquainted with hunger. Your diet, any diet that you shift to, will be a lot more valuable. A lot of people knock intermittent fasting. They say, I don't like that diet, it's not sustainable. Again, there's that sustainability thing popping up again. Ask a bodybuilder, hey, the last couple weeks, were you hungry? They're going to tell you yes, they were super hungry. Most of the time when you see people that are in super good shape, they're probably experiencing some hunger. And the point is, for most of us, we got to spend a little bit more time not eating than we do eating. Those are some really valuable tips that I think can help you guys with your diet and with your nutrition. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Catch you guys later.